Commander Thexlar's mandibles clicked in frustration as he stared at the impossible terrain before him. The swamp stretched for kilometers, a fetid expanse of murky water, tangled vegetation, and bottomless mud that had already claimed 2 of their reconnaissance drones. Behind him, 3,000 soldiers from the Galactic Coalition's 47th Battalion stood in perfect formation, their advanced armor glinting in the twin suns of Kepler 88d. How long until the hover transports arrive? Thexlar demanded, his translator converting his clicks into standard galactic. Lieutenant Kvara, a 7-foot Dravian warrior, consulted her tactical display. 18 hours, Commander. The nearest depot is 3 systems away. Unacceptable. Thexlar's claws scraped against his helmet. The enemy forces were entrenched just beyond the swamp. They detected the coalition's approach and were now fortifying their position. Every hour of delay meant more defensive installations, more casualties when they finally attacked. Captain Zhen Wu, the human liaison officer, had been silent throughout the discussion. He stood apart from the main group, knee-deep in swamp water at the edge, examining something with intense focus. The other officers had learned to ignore him. Humans were still probationary members of the coalition, included more for political reasons than military value. Captain Wu, Thexlar called out, impatience sharp in his tone. Stop playing in the mud and join the command briefing. Zhen looked up, water dripping from his boots as he climbed back onto solid ground. In his hands, he carried a thick piece of wood, roughly 2 meters long. Commander, we don't need to wait for hover transports. The Dravian lieutenant made a sound that the translator rendered as derisive laughter. What do you suggest, human? That we walk on water? Close enough. Zhen gestured to the dense forest behind them. We build a floating bridge. All of which will float if properly distributed. Zhen pulled out his datapad and began sketching rapidly. Look, your armor's anti-grav units are designed for vertical assistance, not lateral movement over unstable terrain. But wood, he held up the log, has natural buoyancy. We fell these trees, lash them together into platforms, and create a modular bridge system. Each section supports the next. The soldier's weight gets distributed across the surface area. Preposterous, Kvara snorted. We have plasma cutters, nanoforges, quantum displacement technology, and you want us to play with sticks? Zhen's expression didn't change. Your plasma cutters will fell the trees in minutes. Your nanocables are stronger than any rope we'd use on Earth. And your soldiers' strength means they can move logs that would require machinery back home. Commander, with respect, you have all the tools you need. You're just thinking of them wrong. Thexlar was about to dismiss the entire proposal when his tactical officer, a methodical Zentari named Sylvain, spoke up. Commander, I've run the calculations. The human's proposal is, theoretically sound. Wood from these trees has a density of 0.65 relative to water. Properly constructed platforms would support approximately 400 kilograms per square meter. 4 hours, Zhen added. Give me 4 hours and a work detail. If it doesn't work, we've only lost 4 hours instead of 18. Thexlar's eyes narrowed. And if your bridge collapses mid-crossing with half my battalion on it? Then I'll be on the front section, sir. I go first. Something in the human's calm certainty made Thexlar reconsider. He'd seen enough combat to recognize when someone spoke from experience rather than bravado. You have 3 hours, the commander decided. Fail, and you'll swim back to explain this to High Command. What happened next would be analyzed in coalition military academies for decades. What happened next would be analyzed in coalition military academies for decades. Zhen organized the troops with ruthless efficiency. Plasma cutters felled trees in perfect lengths. Engineering units stripped branches using microtorches. Nanocables, designed for securing spacecraft, lashed logs into hexagonal platforms that distributed weight like a honeycomb. The humans called it corduroy road construction, a technique apparently thousands of years old on Earth. The first platform went into the water 90 minutes later. It sank slightly, then held. The second connected to it, creating a chain. By the third hour, a floating pathway stretched a kilometer into the swamp, undulating gently with the water but remaining stable. Zhen, true to his word, stepped onto the first platform. The wood creaked but held firm. He walked to the second, then the third, then turned back and saluted. "Bridge secure, Commander. Ready for battalion crossing." Thexlar watched in stunned silence as 3,000 soldiers, 100 tons of equipment, and enough firepower to level a city began crossing the swamp on a bridge made of trees and cables. The structure flexed and swayed, but never failed. Engineers at the rear dismantled sections and moved them to the front, extending the bridge as the army progressed. They reached the other side in 6 hours, 12 hours ahead of when the hover transports would have arrived. The enemy, who'd been expecting a day of preparation time, were caught completely off guard. After the battle, as coalition forces secured the enemy position, Thexlar found Zhen supervising the bridge's dismantling. The human was covered in mud, exhausted, but still coordinating work teams. "Captain Wu," the commander said, and this time there was no impatience in his tone. "Your personnel file says humans have only been in space for 2 centuries. How did you know to build that?" He gestured at the now disappearing bridge. Zhen smiled tiredly. "Commander, my species has been solving problems without fancy technology for 200,000 years. We built pyramids before we had wheels. We crossed oceans on wooden ships before we understood metallurgy. We walked on our moon using computers less powerful than your translator." He picked up a piece of wood, examined it with something like affection. "The galaxy has amazing technology. But sometimes the old ways work just fine. You just have to remember that engineering isn't about having the best tools, it's about using what you have to solve the problem in front of you." Thexlar's mandibles clicked slowly, thoughtfully. "I underestimated your species, Captain." "Most people do, sir." Zhen tossed the wood aside and headed toward the debriefing area. "We're kind of counting on it." As Thexlar watched the human walk away, he made a note in his command log: "Recommend upgrading human status from probationary to full coalition members." Reason: they build bridges where others see only obstacles. This is a strategic advantage.